Hi, welcome to this week's podcast. I am Jody Shirami, and this is astropod_cast, and I have a weekly astrology report that I do every Friday to summarize what's going on next week, the future, through astrology. And because astrology is such an ancient art, we are able to look and see from the past these patterns that have occurred over times, over thousands of years, and how these have affected human life on Earth with these electromagnetic energy from these planets as they shift and move onto our bodies. And I have felt this shift very big this week with Pluto waking up at 1 degrees and 22 minutes in Aquarius because Pluto is opposite of my sun, which is Leo. So I have felt this movement very much. And also, as we head into the week, this is the beginning of when Mars and Mercury will be conjuncting and then squaring Pluto. And that again, Scorpio is my Mars. So now I have my Mars in Mars, and and everyone has Mercury in Scorpio. So I'm going to talk over the big overview of the week, and I will continue to list the transits below, and you can always check that out. And if you have questions, please ask me if you don't understand something. But I'm just going to start doing the overview of the week every time now because now that Pluto is awake, things are going to start to really ramp up, and Jupiter is preparing to retrograde in a couple days or weeks. And Jupiter will be retrograde almost until next summer. So that's why everyone predicts July 4th in America will start the Civil War. And I now believe that. And the Civil War has nothing to do with troops and guns. But the administration now has shut down the country for 2 weeks. All the federal people can't get paid and even the military can't get paid. So one of the people I follow on my YouTube page, which I would put a link down below to what I'm talking about, she said today that we're being so bombarded with things happening besides natural disasters, and God bless Alaska after the typhoon, and God bless everyone who's had some major weather events happening. God bless you. She said that the president wants to pay the troops, the federal workers who are troops, the military, out of this certain account. And the problem with that is the reason Pluto is back where the revolution began is that Pluto is here to help the people, which are Aquarius. Aquarius represents the people. And with the government shut down, which means the legislative body, which is the Senate and the House of Representatives, are not in session to pass an emergency bill to give money to the troops. That has to be done through the legislative, not the executive, and not the judiciary. So we are in an authoritarian, one-sided government, which is not what the Constitution wanted. And this woman totally explains it all, and you should go check that out if you want to educate yourself about all the ways we are being lied to by this current government. And yes, governments are corrupt. There are corrupt people in the government. And we know that. And so the people that are now in charge know that, and they're taking advantage of that too. So I would have to say all this began during COVID when this president was also president and really botched up the whole COVID thing. And I know a lot of people really upset about the vaccines they had to take and all these things. And for me, being from another country, when I first came here, I had so many shots. And I went back to Thailand, got more shots, and I came back again, had more shots. Then we moved to Germany and had more shots, and we came back again and had more shots. So having shots is part of trying to save yourself and not get sick, right? And sure, there's going to be bad things that can happen with these shots because not everyone is made like everyone else. There's going to be some people that have deviations from it. They may get allergies, they may get sick, nothing will happen to them. Like for me, all my vaccines were fine. I never had a problem with any of them. My COVID really did get me sick because I was one of the first people in America to get sick. And at the time, we didn't know what it was. So getting a vaccine really helped me a lot. And I know it didn't help a lot of other people. And so we're all stuck right now in this little area, right? So now we're in Libra season. And Libra, again, is the opposite of Aries. And Aries is ruled by Mars. And it is exalted Sun, Aries. It is the initiator. It is the person that leads the expedition. Now, is that person who leads the expedition the smartest person? The most valuable person? Yes, if they're going to lead the expedition, right? But what if what they want is greedy and it's not spiritual? Then you're going to have a greedy Aries person, right? So good and bad are the same thing. It is just your choice to be good or bad. And if you're not hurting anyone else, then you're only hurting yourself if you do something really bad, right? And so morality is going to play a huge part in this new moon that is in Libra. But before that, the Libra moon will be opposing Neptune in Aries. The Libra new moon is going to occur on the 21st. But before that, when it's at 28 degrees and 22 minutes of arc at 8:28 a.m. on 10/21, the sun is going to overshadow the moon slowly. But before it shifts into Scorpio at 11:42 a.m., it's going to square Pluto in Aquarius at 11:28 a.m. And then it's going to have another quincunx with Neptune at 0 degrees and 1 minute of arc in Aries, and Uranus at 0 degrees and 39 minutes of arc in Gemini. And they're going to form a yod. And here is what is going to happen before the new moon and the sun ever shift. But the sun's pretty much right at the edge, so it's going to go move in together. So before all that happens, the Libra moon, who's already getting darker and darker, is going to have these things happen. And then once it shifts into Scorpio, it's going to begin its square to Pluto in Aquarius. Now the sun and moon are in the watery, fixed sign of Scorpio, which Pluto and Mars rule over, co-rule. And like I've been saying for the past months, is that every time any planet shifts into any new sign, anything it does, it's going to always run into Pluto. Going to run into Neptune. Maybe Saturn, but Saturn right now is a little bit at 26 degrees of Pisces. So it's not quite lined up at the critical degrees of 28, 29, 0, 1, and 2. So it's a bigger arc with the outer planets because they're so far. So you have this 5-degree little circular area that's very powerful. So when Mars begins its square to Pluto and Mercury catches up with Mars, is going to join into that square. And the sun is going to eventually come in and square Pluto also as it shifts into Sagittarius in a month. So this podcast is really about what it is that's happening now that Pluto is awake. I really want to talk about that because Pluto is the master builder. Pluto is the person that can get the job done, may not be nice about it, but can get the job done. And so when it meets up with Mars, who is super powerful here in its own sign as a watery fixed sign, fixed. Because in Aries, it is a cardinal sign. It's leading. It gets what it wants. You're going to follow me. You're going to appreciate me for thinking up of these ideas, right? But Mars and Aries, that's all it does is lead you, get you the where you're going. You have to figure out everything else. It's not going to figure things out for you. It's just going to give you energy to begin. It's the initiator. It is the pioneer. But now the pioneer starts and gets it going. But then other people come in, like Taurus after Aries, who brings in the earth and the home and the food and the things we need to survive, right? So here Mars, so powerful in Scorpio. And Scorpio has the reputation of being deep, dark, and psychotic and obsessive. And yes, that's true. That's the Pluto part and Mars together in a water sign. When your emotions overtake you and are so powerful, because I have Mars and Neptune in Scorpio. So the fact that it's going to oppose Neptune is also affecting me. And what it's affecting me is that I have to do my podcast in a different way because I woke up and realized I had to do a different way, and I can't tell you how I knew. It's just that psychic message coming in from the universe saying you need to do it this way. So what I'm trying to say is that we've been going through this Pluto thing for a while. It first entered in January into Aquarius. And so that initiated a spark in all of us to begin something that is related to an air sign. An air sign is about communication. It's about ideas. It's about knowledge. And Uranus, who rules over Aquarius, right, is in Gemini, which is the communication, the thinker, the inquisitive person. And Gemini people, because I have two Geminis in my house, Gemini Moon and a Gemini Sun. They're very curious, they're very friendly, they're very sweet. It's hard to not like a Gemini except for when they get too into their own head and they forget that they have another twin out there that they're looking for, and they just get into their own head and get confused and start to break down mentally. And that can happen to Gemini because their brains are so quick. So it's really difficult to say what you want to say at these points in time, and it's really critical that we say what we say at this point in time because Mercury is in Scorpio. But a lot of people can't say what they want to say in society because of the way we've been programmed, and we have cultural PTSD, most of us. Almost everyone on earth has PTSD. So we're all dealing with a broken system that keeps pushing us into a PTSD type of situation where the powers that be keep starting wars and sending our people into war and dying. And now they can't pay the troops because the people that represent us aren't doing their job. Because greed has taken over. When you only get money to become a president, you have to have a campaign. to be a president. You have to have millions of dollars to put ads up. And who gets all that money? The oligarchy. The oligarchy doesn't want you to have freedom. They want you to be their workers. They're worker bees. And they're trying to get you to go out there and pick fruit, pick vegetables that people from other country come in and do, Mexico. And they work hard. Well, you're never going to see a bunch of people from America go out and pick fruit and vegetables. Well, guess what? The way the government is going, you are going to have to go pick vegetables and fruit eventually, because authoritarianism is here, fascism is here, oligarchy is here. They've always been there, they've just been hiding and pretending. But people idolize the rich to the point of obsessiveness, which is what Pluto is here to show you in Aquarius, is through Mars and Scorpio, is that you are obsessed with money, being a king, being a queen. And that's exactly the opposite of what America was made for. America came here to get representation because they weren't getting it in England. They were getting taxed, which is called the tea tax at the time. And that's why that happened in Boston, the tea tax thing. It wasn't about anything else besides being taxed for something and not having a vote. You're taxing me, but you're not letting me vote. And that is exactly what's happening right now in America. They will make you pay taxes. They will make you take out loans. They're going to try to trick you with a reverse loan mortgage. Again, just like in 2008 when they did that to everyone with the housing market. And they're going to do it again. So I'm going to be brave and say things that I know in my bones that have been occurring for the past at least 40 years of my life. And I'm 57, 58 years old. And so growing up, I knew things were wrong. I could tell when my adopted family would call Black people the N-word, or my own immediate nucleus family would do it. I knew it was wrong, but what am I going to do? I just decided to start reading books, to not be listening to the gossip they want to talk about, the negativity they want to talk about. I wanted to uplift myself and read books, as I love to read, I love to sing. And I really went into my art, into my artist phase, where I really was writing poetry. I was writing A papers in English and everywhere I went, and drawing for my reports, singing, playing basketball. I wanted to see the good parts of America that I read about. I wanted to see all those things. And then once I did see them, when I moved into a very high society town where the owners of the Bears, Chicago Bears live, the owners of the White Sox, all these oligarchs. And once I got there, I realized that it wasn't for us. It wasn't for the regular person. It was only for the rich. And how they have groomed their children to be the way they are, to be clones of them. And so the new moon in Libra is coming in. And all the new moons coming up for the next couple of months are all going to be new moons at the very last degrees of their sign, which is where I was born, with the Leo sun at the very last degrees heading into Virgo. And my rising sign is the same at the very end of Virgo going into Libra. So after I learned about my chart, I realized I needed to come and share what I feel. The new moon is so powerful because it just left the South Node in Virgo, what we're supposed to release. And Pluto wants us to release it and is helping us. And Uranus is also 0 degrees. Pluto's at 1, now stationed direct. Uranus is still retrograde at 0 and is preparing to move back into Taurus. And it will be retrograde till next year. Jupiter is in Cancer and is preparing to retrograde, and it's at the very last degrees now. It's at 25 degrees of Cancer. But it's going to retrograde for about 6 months, and then it will eventually move out into Leo next year. And Saturn has just retrograded back into Pisces. And Neptune rules over Pisces. And Neptune is at 0 degrees. Not in Aries, not in Pisces. Neptune is sitting there looking at Mars in Scorpio and the Sun in Scorpio. With Pluto waking up, we are asked to look back in January when it first moved into Aquarius. What is it that you were thinking? What is it that you initiated? What is it that you started back in January? You were like, oh yeah, now I got the energy. This is what I've been thinking I wanted to do. Okay, and then it went retrograde. And then we had to go back over everything again, like, oh, can we really make this happen where everyone agreed to it will be good. We had all those mental doubts again occur, right? Because Mercury was in Virgo for a while. And Venus is also in Libra at about 6 degrees of Libra. So the fact that Venus is in Libra during this new moon will help us to have a little bit more compassion, and values and our morals will be adjusted in Libra. Because Libra is an air sign that is cardinal. It leads the way you communicate with others. It helps you to understand that being vulgar doesn't help. Libras do not like vulgarity. We do not like rude people. We do not like being yelled at in public. It is a peaceful sign. Its color is like a beautiful rose pink or magenta. It is a color of love, of life, of flowers. So the Libra New Moon is asking you, here is your chance to really lean into balancing your aggressiveness, your need for war, your need for attention, with thinking about others and how to become friendly and get things involved and work together, right? And so the Libra person is also understands what's at the other end of the Aries. So the Libra person will want to be with an Aries person, a person that's a fire or hothead person that helps them to get out of their head of indecision. This person can make a decision quick. This person like, I don't know. Aries like, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I want to be nice. I'd rather just not deal with it so I don't think there's no war, right? So we have to balance that. Sometimes we have to fight. Sometimes we have to be peaceful and diplomatic. It's a balance. And again, I talk about this all the time, is the balancing. And also loving yourself. If you don't love yourself, if you were raised by a mom that wasn't nurturing, which happens, then you might have taken a long time to learn to love yourself. But once you learn to love yourself, you have to hold on to that with every amount of strength you have. Because now Pluto is coming in and saying, hey, you know, what you thought about in January, you had to go over to make sure what you were thinking about wasn't foolhardy. And Libra New Moon is saying, hey, this is the time to plant that seed. If it's something your heart truly desires, this is the time to go for it in a peaceful, diplomatic way. Because you're getting ready to see how Venus and Mars is really going to affect our personal life coming up here for the next couple of years. Because they're kind of traveling along together. You've noticed they're kind of right there together. And Venus moves faster than Mars. So Mars was retrograde for so long in Leo and then in Cancer. You remember that in the summer. That it's also collected a lot of energy and knowledge so that when Venus meets up with it, it can have some answers for Venus. Like, are you being diplomatic? Are you being moral? Are you being a good person? Are you helping the world to be a better place, Mars? So Mars, your emotional Scorpio, says, yes, I want to be able to communicate and be what I should be in Scorpio, which is to help you dig out all that stuff that is clouding you from the past lives you have, from the life you might have now. Whatever it is that you're dealing with, I'm here to help you get rid of that by squaring Pluto, by giving you that amount of energy to bounce around in there and get rid of what no longer is in there bouncing around. It can be cultural trauma, can be the wounded child, which is real. It could be mundane life troubles, uh, and to continue to hold on to your hope because we are here to help you. Pluto, Neptune, Saturn, Uranus is here to help you. With Uranus and Gemini, our thoughts are moving quickly and intelligently. We are curious. We want to learn. We want to do stuff. And that is what our savior is going to be. Is Uranus in Gemini for about 10 years, 8 to 10 years. And that is what we're trying to do these past thousands of years, is to become more knowledgeable, educated, higher learning. It doesn't mean you have to go to college. What it means is don't stop learning. Continue to be curious. Don't give up. Don't say, oh, that's stupid. I don't need to learn anything else. I know everything. You don't know everything. No one knows everything. So really, Pluto's trying to say, from Uranus in Gemini, Mercury ruling over Uranus, and Mercury's in Scorpio. And Mercury in Scorpio is not mincing its words. It's not going to be polite. It's not going to do what Libra said. Because Libra already tried that. It didn't work. So now you're in Scorpio. And Scorpio's like, well, you didn't listen to Libra. You didn't understand the peaceful offer we gave you. You actually want to come in and be combative still? So that's where we're at. And as you can see, the world is still combative. Do not believe the ceasefire from Israel. They never have ceasefires. They never stop. The people of Israel have gone mad. They have a rogue group of people that go around kicking out the Palestinians in their own land because they feel that they deserve that. It's like, how can you come out of the World War II and then go into a place where the whole Western world gave you a piece of the Gaza Strip? How can you be that way? That's why there's no way they can be true spiritual people. They're going to be the people like MAGA. It's not true spirituality if you hate others, if you want to hurt children. That's the first test. If you treat children badly, if you treat only your beautiful blonde children that way, but not anybody else in the whole world, because there's more brown people than there are white people. So that's why the white people right now in America are so afraid. And with Charlie Kirk's assassination, the other side was saying, we're done with this way of saying you care for us is to not help us in any way. You can't care for us if you don't help the common person that votes for you, that pays the taxes, that you use to go play golf every week, that you use to protect your family, all of the family. So all of it. So this is again back to the Boston Tea Party. You're going to tax us, but you're not going to let us vote. You're going to just keep taxing us for more tea. Who cares about the tea? We want our freedom. That's why we came to America. We want freedom from the royals. So now people are going to be royalty in America. I mean, look, one of them married a prince. As soon as they moved into America, the people in America that were crazy and been planning these things completely brought out Project 2025. And that's against Black people. And if you remember, Princess Diana died in a car chase while she was dating a Middle Eastern man whose family was richer than the Queen of England because they owned Harrods department store, one of the first department stores ever to be invented. And they were Middle Eastern. And I remember Princess Diana died. And then it's good that Harry brought Meghan to America, but all that did was make all these people that are really rich in America want the title themselves. Why would a little half black girl get that? What does she do? Why would he pick her? Why would he pick my beautiful blonde daughter? Because maybe she's not really blonde. And Megan's not like, she's doing the best she can for what she's had to deal with. So these are all the truths that no one want to say out loud, but it really is up to us astrologists to say things because there's too much fake astrology going on. There's too much fake optimism. There's too much fake everything going on to where, as some astrologers have said, they are trying to meld us into a robot. They want us to have chips in our brain that can help us with our eyesight or whatever, but they can control the chip. So now we're like a dog with a chip in us, right? That part I don't like. But I think if you're going to vaccinate the whole world and help us to live, I think that's a good thing because science proves it's true. So this is going to be the way my podcast goes from now on. And I appreciate you for coming by and stopping by and listening. But the gloves are off with Pluto awake now and moving forward for the next 18 years. The gloves are off. We have to say the truth or else we're going to be buried in lies from other people. And understand, America was a colony by the British. Colonizers. The British are the terrorizers of the world. They terrorized everyone. Spain terrorized everyone. Because Spain and England hate each other. France also got their revolution. Because their king and queen was just absolutely no sense. Had no sense. And the world needs reality. They don't need optimism. The world needs hope. So all this stuff is going to really get very deep and emotional because the Grand Trine arrives on the 22nd as we head into Scorpio season. And Neptune's going to move back into Pisces. And Libra Sun is going to have a meeting with Neptune. And the Sun's going to enter Scorpio at 11:50 p.m. on the 22nd. And immediately have all these connections and transits. Like everything's going on every day, right? All the time. So Scorpio season is going to be the catalyst at the end of this month to push you into reality and understanding that what it is that you've been hiding from yourself that you don't want to see is now going to be exposed. And we're going to have a full moon coming up, and that will really highlight what the Libra New Moon is wanting you to see and understand so that you can start planting your seeds of changes and the growth that you wanted to start in January. But then Pluto went to sleep. So, and all the other outer planets are almost asleep too. So I'm going to name this podcast Quicksand. So I really want you to understand that we're kind of stuck in quicksand. You know how if you move too much, you're going to slowly drown in the sand. But if you stand still, you won't start to sink and cause that pressure. And you find help with a friend or a stick, you can pull yourself, help save you, right? So that's what Libra is. Libra and Aries access is that you can be brave, but you need help. You need to be diplomatic. You need to forge a new way of being. You need to leave the old thoughts and face your shadow, which is things you hid from yourself. And Pluto knows about that. Pluto rules the underworld. He knows all about it. And if you don't have Scorpio in your sign anywhere, know that Scorpio is the number 8 sign. And again, 8 is a power number. So we're heading into the number 8, which means other people's money. Your 8th house is other people's money. Your 8th house is where you have hidden secrets. The 8th house is considered bad luck. But this is all the Christian readings of it all. Inherently, no person or sign is bad. It is your choice to go to the dark side of the moon. Because the moon spins around us, but we only see the moon spinning. We don't see anything else. And that dark side never gets sun. It remains dark all the time. So if you want to go to the dark side of the moon, that's where you're going to find out what is holding you back. So the new moon is here to help you see yourself in the dark. Every new moon's like that, but these new moons are more powerful at this degree. 28th, 29th degree. If you have any of these degrees, you know what I'm talking about because I was born at those degrees. So you know what I'm talking about if I'm talking about 29th degree. It is the end. So having a Neptune involved and now back in Pisces with Saturn, we can start to really look into the dark and still have hope through using our imagination, because Neptune in Pisces will show you there is no boundaries to who you can be. The more you're yourself, the more happier you will be. Instead of conforming to all these cookie cutter models that we see, everyone looks the same, everyone wants to have the same thing, wear the same clothes. That's not what humans are. Humans are supposed to show who they are. And yeah, and if you're on a team or whatever, and that's what it's for, all those clothing and stuff. But as an individual going out into the world, you want to look a certain way. I get it. You want to look professional maybe for your job. You want to look beautiful. You want to look well kept. I get it. But you got to be who you want to be. You can do all those things, but you have to be yourself. And I remember when plastic surgery started getting so popular, how people were using it to look younger. And this was after I just got my car accident and I've had 10 plastic surgeries on my face to just get it to look normal. I thought, wow. Imagine if you use plastic surgery to look different and be more pretty. How people are playing God. And it really started the decay of society. The reality TV shows, the way that people have homeschooling now and don't want their kids to interact with other kids. They do their homeschooling and teach their values. There's private colleges that teach their values, and I get all that. But if your private colleges and private schools aren't teaching you to be a good human being, then it doesn't matter what education you're giving your kid, because you're basically brainwashing them to continue your legacy of being slave owners, colonization people, colonizers. Because everything that's happening in America right now is a colonizing thing. And that's what the woman I told you about talked about, is that this is a country of colonizers. This is a country of slave owners. The founding fathers were also slave owners. George Washington had slaves. Andrew Jackson. They all had slaves. Maybe one didn't have slaves, but that would just be one. So they had the right idea. They wanted to change the world for the better. They had the right idea, but they needed the plantation owners of the South to agree with them. And so they're going to say, yeah, we don't want being taxed by them either. We want to keep our own money, which our slaves earned for us, right? So that went along really fine for a while. But then the Civil War came. Because now, as you get educated, as more people come to America for freedom, for what it actually stands for in the Constitution, once you start having people come in that actually are intelligent and high-minded and humanitarian and truly spiritual, not religious, spiritual people, as soon as they started coming in and seeing everything that happened here, the scalping, the Indians, and then they started saying, well, we don't want to be this country, really, do we? We don't want to be slave owners. We don't, this isn't freedom. Let's be real. And it wasn't until 1965 the Civil Rights Act passed. So these ideals have gripped us for over 2,000 years. We're being thrown back, as one of my other astrologists says that I watched, back. It's Rasa La Healing. This is the page I'm talking about, by Timothy Halloran. He was saying how we're getting thrown back into the Dark Ages. And in the Dark Ages, there was no schooling for the poor. Only the rich got taught by priests. And the priests also guided all the royal. And so the priests became corrupt. They needed their things that they have, like they all have now in the Vatican, which is full of money, full of stuff. And a lot of it was probably stolen by the Romans. And then in World War I and II, a lot of stuff was stolen and put in there also. So we have a lot of karma that is selfish, where it's not humanitarian. It's me, 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 me. And that is what the Aries period was, when the Romans conquered and colonized everywhere. And then the English, of course, were colonized by the Romans, and the English learned how to fight from the Romans, who were actually Vikings back in the day. So, unless you know your history, unless you know what's going on, then we are back in the Dark Ages, where you blame things on witchcraft, and you blame people who have higher ideals as being fear-mongers, and you perpetuate your legacy through your children, through lies, and send your children to private school so they only get treated like that because, your mommy and daddy gave them a lot of money, so they got to treat you good. Some schools, I'm not saying all schools are bad. Some of these schools are good. Some of these private schools are good. They actually try to help you be a better human being. And a lot of rich people want that also for their kids, because after centuries of being rich, you start getting into inbreeding. You start getting into people that don't look right when they mate together. Their kids look, and that's when there's been inbreeding, whether with your own family or with your cousins, with your distant cousins, whatever it is. I mean, you can't get married in Greenland without taking a blood test, because everyone in Greenland's related to each other. Because it's a small island, and that's the island that our president wants. He's into that. So I really is really, I'm really saying a lot of stuff today that I don't usually say, because I've had such an epiphany this week after Pluto woke up that I could see all the facades that is in the world, and it really can screw you up in terms of it's so much that you don't know what to think. You rather just sit there and think about yourself. And I get that too. But once you start thinking about yourself and your future, you have to start thinking, well, if I don't do something, this could be a communist country, it could be a dictatorship, it could be an oligarch, it could be, what do you call having a king and queen again? Because no matter how rich you get, you're still going to have to face Pluto. You're still going to have to face the sun. Because once the sun gets into Scorpio on the 22nd, and then it starts to square Pluto, where Mars and Mercury will be at this week, it's that now we're talking about not just your actions, not just the way you think and the way you communicate. Now we're talking about the core of who you are. If you are still hiding parts of yourself that you can't release for the next 20 years, it's going to cause you illness, because that's what Pluto does. Pluto rules over nuclear energy. And basically that's what Cancer is. Cancer is your body exploding because you have so much negative energy in you, or you're around something that's bad for you, that's toxic, and Cancer starts to metastasize. I pray every day. I think about that every day. I want to live a long time, but sometimes it's good when you're older and your parents aren't around, so you can be who you want to be. And that's the other thing about being a parent, is that it's hard, and you can only give them so much love and guidance, and then they have to become adults and do it on their own and have their own thoughts. And that's what you want. You want your children to be better than you. You want your children to have a better life than you, right? But the legacy shouldn't be money. It shouldn't be spoiling your child. It shouldn't be making your child think he's better than everybody else. It should be a legacy of peace. It should be a legacy of learning how to cooperate, learning how to accept other people for who they are. And if you truly understand pain, and you've gone through pain, then you can't really hate anybody, because you understand they had this life that was difficult and it made them this way. I don't hate any of my neighbors, even if they hate me. I can't help that. If you voted for somebody that you didn't think you knew, or you voted for someone you thought he was going to give you all these things and he didn't, that's not my fault. Don't get angry at me. I didn't vote. So understand the projection, the way people lure you in, the way people do things to you, the way that you have been the way you've learned to manipulate emotions, the way you have learned to manipulate the truth, to manipulate your mind so that it believes lies are truth. Okay, because inside all of us, there is a moral code here. Everybody has a heart. You choose to ignore your heart, when you only listen to this, you will become evil. You can't help it, because that's what your choice is. Right? Now, if you're evil, it doesn't mean you can't be good. It's the same coin. Evil, good. You have to have both. You have to be able to take on the other side, the dark side. You have to be able to bring that in so you can get what you want. You can't have peace without challenging the dark side. You just can't. And if you ever watched Star Wars and you saw the movie where Anakin was introduced, you understand what I mean by that. As soon as I saw Anakin in the movie, because of my life and the trauma I've gone through with my mom and just everything in my life, with my stepdads, with my half-brother sister, with their family. What I learned is that almost every person hates, calls people names like gook, chink, the N-word. I started to think, wow, I grew up wanting to beat people up. Mars and Scorpio. I wanted to beat you up for being an asshole. But I couldn't do that to my family because I grew up in that family for a reason. God put me there for a reason, so I could be here today to tell you almost everyone is spiteful, hateful, revengeful. That's why there's so much toxic optimism out there, especially on social media. It's not real. No one can be happy all the time. And if you only show your happy moments, then you're a fake. You're not a human. Because what makes you endearing is the pain you suffer. Is coming out of that pain. That's what makes you a human. Is understanding it's not just good, bad. It's bad too. You got to deal with that. You got to balance it out. You got to acknowledge sometimes you're bad. You might say things you shouldn't have said. Which is a big deal in America right now. And in the world. So, I'm going to leave you with that, and I'll be back next week, and really try to rest and take it easy with the new moon. New moon means the energy is very low. It's all dark. And it's your emotional energy, which affects your inner self, your inner love of yourself, your inner core to be strong for other people. So I am going to sleep a lot this week because I didn't get to sleep much last week because it was a short week. There was only 4 days of work. So you had to get a lot done in 4 days because, you end up taking Monday off. So enjoy this next week of Scorpio season. Scorpio season is a beautiful time for mysticism, magic, understanding that there's more to life than just what you can see and touch. Spirituality isn't a religion. It is a way of life. It is a way of meditating. It is a way of connecting to who you are, the source of who you are, and really listening to your old soul, the wisdom that's there to tell you from your ancestors who you never knew or met. They're there guiding you, helping you, speaking to you, telling you. And I have always listened to my psychic messages since probably I became a teenager and I started to see the truth about the people closest to me. And that's when I knew I had to find a way out because it was so suffocating. It nearly killed me. I've almost died 3 times, 4 times in my life. So I probably have 5 more since I'm a cat. But the point is, if you have these experiences, you must understand that you're put here on earth to share your experiences and the suffering so that others can be encouraged to not give up, to not lay down and die. Because you do want to lay down and die when things are so oppressive. So try to handle this Pluto energy in terms of looking at yourself. And I know it's going to be so hard. It's going to be so many bad things happening this week. I can feel it. People don't like the truth. And when you confront them, they get very angry. And when I came to Florida, I told you I started a permaculture forest. I've started it. It's not done, obviously. It takes at least 5 years, 10 years to establish. But the point is you get it going and you get the earth clean. You get your land all back to its nutritious self so it can grow food. And I have Aries. I have Saturn and Aries. So for me, My structure is being a pioneer. And having a stellium in Leo, being born with the stellium, the Sun, Mercury, and Jupiter, I know after learning what's happened in my life, I'm supposed to be here to help you. So if you don't need help, that's great. If you just want to come listen and talk to me, leave a comment. I appreciate that. It is a dark time right now, and it's going to get darker and darker and darker. October is the most intense month because the darkness is coming in right now. Because again, the time's getting ready to shift back, fall forward. I mean, we're going to go forward 1 hour. But I can see the world, I can see the people around me in my community, and it is beating the shit out of people. I think sometimes I could have like some feelings and feel sad and whatever, but nothing compared to what I've seen in my community in terms of it's just a time of reckoning with yourself, the truth, and what you hide from others. It's time to reckon, time to get rid of that, whatever is going on. Get rid of what you think is a crutch that's helping you. You don't need a crutch. You only need yourself and to love yourself and to continue to do what makes you happy. If it doesn't hurt anyone, that's perfect. If it helps people, that's better. But don't beat yourself up. You're just a human being here on earth to learn how to be. And sometimes we make wrong choices. Sometimes we make the correct choices. Just make sure that the choices you make, good and bad, are evened out, are balanced, so that you don't feel guilty for making a bunch of bad decisions or feel overly euphoric making good decisions to where you are now a narcissist. So if you didn't know what a narcissist is, just watch the President of the United States. That's a narcissist, and that's why he's there, and that's why he's here. And I knew back in 2016 when he made it into presidency, I knew he was here for a reason. And he is doing his job, what he's supposed to do, which is show you the bottom of the barrel of what can happen if your dreams do come true and you leave your money to your children and the way you raised them. You can see all. And it had to be a rich person again to show us what it means to be rich and how people can't get out of their own way once they start to get euphoric. Things are going their way. They get euphoric. I get it. I've been there. I learned. I lived the lesson. Because I'm not an American. I never lived in a town. I always lived in an Air Force base. Then I went to college. I never lived in a town anywhere. And then I lived in a town here for 30 years in Illinois. And that's when I saw what American society truly is. Because I was in a town full of oligarchs and then regular service people that did things for that community. So I was one of those people that did service things for the community, volunteered, do all kinds of stuff like that, and then worked with the regular people, like at the rec center and stuff. And I'm not saying everyone's perfect or bad or anything like that. I'm just saying that where you find yourself, really pay attention to your surrounding and see how it affects you and see if it's exactly what you want in life. Because, life can be long and beautiful, as long as you accept your decisions, accept what happened, and know why you did it. If you did it out of a instinctive energy, then everything can be beautiful for you. But if you make a good choice, then feel guilty and drag that guilt on, then you can eventually become very spiteful. And you can see it a lot of times with people that don't talk to their children. They don't talk to their family. They're mean to their brothers and sisters. They're mean to their nieces and nephews. Because what they're after is money. And money brings them a sense of accomplishment. Whereas money should be used to make life easier in some ways for yourself, like having a washer and dryer, having a nice car, things like that. Not to use your money to show off and say, look, I'm so rich, look at what I have on. I get that. But if you have something you love and it's a hand-me-down, then yeah, I love that for you. I get it. I'm not saying that. I'm not judging. I'm just trying to say to you that make sure that what it is you want truly makes you happy. You. Not them. Not them. Not them. But yourself happy. That's all I'm saying. And if you're happy and you can balance your life in a spiritual way, then I am very happy for you. And that's what I want for you. And that's why I'm sitting here talking to you. Because even myself, I have to learn how to balance my life. Okay, it never ends. It isn't like, oh, I'm there, I'm done. It's not like that. And you can see a lot of people think that that's what it means. I'm done, I did it. I did it. And then they don't change. They're not curious. They're not looking for anything else. They're not letting anything else into their life. This is it. This is the box I want, and I'm staying in here. And then there's this box, this box, this box. And then there's all these boxes get together. And they make fascism. Because they like their box. They want you to stay in your place. They don't want you in their lane. They don't want you to have money like they do. Because then they can't control you. So, thank you for being here. I appreciate you so much. And thank you to my spiritual children. I appreciate you guys. Take it easy this week. And really, if you start to get in that dark spot, comment. I will be checking my comments this week. If you need to talk to me, you can reach me privately, message me on any of my accounts, which is YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And they're all under Jody Boots or Jody Boots 22. Okay? You can privately message me, and I would love to talk to you. Okay? Because I, again, had a rough week. I mean, it wasn't perfect, and I had to really go through some dark stuff and realize I was repeating a pattern that I'd learned. So I'm working on releasing that as I'm training my puppy dog not to pee and poop in the house. So, okay, I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll be here next week.